There's not an actual age for peakness. Everyone is different. You peak once you've found your purpose. You peak once you found your passion. You peak when you found what you're looking for. You peak once you've discovered who you are, what you want to be, what is your purpose in the world. How can you aid this life? How can you aid the world? What can you make right? Or what can you do that is unique to you? That is when you peak. And that's not in your 20s. Because in your 20s, you still don't know a lot about yourself. In your 20s, your prefrontal cortex has not finished developing. In your 20s, you're still wondering about stuff, about the world. You don't know that much. So how can you peak when literally your brain has not finished developing? It does not make sense. Hello and welcome to Kitchen Table Advice. My name is Paola and I am the host of this podcast. This podcast is a safe place where you can ask for any advice you want. It can be relationship advice, both platonic or romantic, career advice, or life advice. I wanted to create a safe place where you can ask for your advice without fear. My purpose here is to serve as a guide and give you a different perspective for you to eventually both find your purpose in life as well as your voice. As a reminder, every name will be anonymous and your identity will always be kept a secret. This is not professional advice and I am not a licensed therapist or psychologist. Just think of this as advice you would get from a close friend on a kitchen table. So, let's begin. My wonderful gems, how are you? I hope you're doing amazing. If you're a returning gem, welcome back. If you're new here, hello, how are you? Make sure you set out the vibe, and if you like what you're listening to, then please feel free to subscribe and like this channel. And as you can see, we've changed locations. Unfortunately, we had to change location. We can no longer shoot where we used to shoot, so we are in transitioning and looking for locations. So hopefully this video turns out well so that this can be our permanent location, but I can't promise you anything. But we will try our best to keep putting out videos as much as we can. All right, so don't be alarmed. Keep sending in your story, keep asking your advice, and we'll try our best to churn out a video as soon as possible. All right, so with that intro, we'll start with the first story of the episode. The title of the first story is, I'm a 28-year-old woman with 20K savings. I don't have family due to domestic violence and in desperate need for an advice. Wow. All right, let's just jump in. So as I've previously stated, I'm a 28-year-old woman living in Sydney who has saved almost $80,000. In parentheses, I have worked hard for the past 10 years and I'm now earning well in my career. But I'm in a complicated situation with my partner. Parentheses, relationships can be emotionally abusive and toxic. He wants me to get a mortgage for an 800-acre property that his mom signed him up for 4 years ago when we weren't together. He's already paid 10% to secure it, which is $80,000, and want me to put the other 80 down for the mortgage. I know this may sound ridiculous, but it's a really big challenge for me, and I want to make the right decision. A part of me thinks I should try and get a home myself, but my partner tells me I wouldn't be able to get a loan by myself. He also says that he wouldn't be able to get a loan without me. I'm really worried to make the wrong decisions. I'm really worried to make the wrong decision when I feel like I have the opportunity now to make a good decision for my future. Any advice and thought would be helpful. And please, a reality check and groundbreaking perspectives are welcome. Wow. Okay, so we'll just jump into the advice since I was really short. Don't put the money down. Oh my goodness. Okay, please, ladies, gentlemen, whoever, don't invest in a house is a big commitment. I hope I'm not hitting this. But a house is a big commitment. You don't want to invest in a house unless you are going to be staying in that house for a good amount of time. Okay? I know some people do the Graham Stephan thing. That's your business. But make sure your name is on the lease. Make sure it is your house. Don't just put down. Listen, I understand you love him and he's a great partner, yada, yada, yada. However, don't invest in a house where your name is not on the lease. Don't invest in a house with someone you're not sure you're going to be together. I'm pretty sure you're in love. You think this is the man of your life. We've all been there. We've all done that. But I hate to say this, but unless you are married, don't invest in a house with someone. You've been to a court. Yes, marriage is just a piece of paper, whatever, but it's a piece of paper that protects your rear, if you know what I mean. Okay? Don't invest in a house unless your name is going to be on the lease. Don't invest in a house unless the documents are showing that you live there, half the house is yours. Just don't do it. It's a bad deal overall. I understand what you mean. The opportunity is there. There may not be a chance that he's going to get along with you, but you're 28. Like, come on. You're 28. You may not get a loan now, but you're probably going to get a loan in 2 years, 3 years, if not 4 years from now. And as you've stated, you're doing well in your career right now. Who's to say you won't get a promotion? Who's to say you won't move to another branch and make even more money that's going to make you qualify for a loan? Or if you have any debt at this point in time that is making your credit score low, who's to say you won't have time to pay for that? I get it, and I have been there. Trust me, I have been there. I've invested in things that it just seemed opportune. It's like the opportunity was right there. Why not jump in it? But I'm telling you right now, unless you've already planned for this to be in your life, don't just jump into something because the opportunity presents itself. Those things can be very risky. I do understand 50% of the time it might work out well, but there's also the other 50% of the time that it's not going to work out well for you. So please think about it. Truly think about it. Unless your name is going to be on that lease, unless you walked around the house, unless you know the house won't need any major repairs, unless you know that the neighbors are not going to disturb you too much or there's going to be a noise complaint. Unless you do your due diligence, don't invest in a house just because I can. Please do your work. I cannot reiterate that enough. You have to do your work. Whether it's a house, for me it was a car, bad investment. Whether it's a house, whether it's a car, whether it's anything. I get that the chance has just presented itself. I get that you may feel like, oh, there's not going to be another time, but yes, there is. Okay? The good thing about life, which is also a bad thing about life, is that it changes. Changes happen. Change is a part of life. Change is a part of the world. We may not like it. We may not agree with it, especially when it comes to breaking up with your partner, losing that job, or whatever. We may not like it, but change is a part of life. Just because you don't qualify for a loan right now does not mean you won't qualify in the future. It's like everyone has forgotten that life is a journey. I don't know, but I not to minimize your feelings too much, but I do understand it is a good opportunity. But unless you do your due diligence, don't invest in a house. And I will add this: please don't invest in a house with a man unless you two are married. I don't care that you're engaged. Be married, okay? Yes, marriage is a piece of paper. So is a birth certificate. So is that job contract. So are your benefits that you're getting at work, okay? So is your social security card, all right? Yes, marriage is a piece of paper, but so are a lot of other stuff out here in the world that help us succeed. So is that diploma. Is that diploma not a piece of paper? So please, don't give me that thing about marriage being a piece of paper. I get it. I understand. And so are a plethora of other important stuff in our lives. So, ladies, gentlemen, don't do it. Don't invest in a house. Don't invest in a car unless you have done your due diligence. This is something you want to do and it's at the right time. You have the savings. It's not going to affect you too much and you can do it. All right? Okay. So that is it with that first story. She asked for a reality check, so I think I did a good job. So that's it for the first story. We're going to take a break right now and come back with the second story of the episode. All right, we are back with the second story of the episode, and I think a lot of people are going to relate to this. Oh my gosh. All right, so the title is, how do I cope with feelings of regret from missing out during the best years of my life being over? Right? So I'm a 22-year-old man and I graduated college this year and I'm getting hit with a wave of sadness. I miss college so much and it's only been a few months. I commissioned into the military through college because I got a really good scholarship for it my freshman year. It's a 6-year commitment, and it's not really something I'm excited about. I have a degree in computer science and I have decent connections, so I know I will be able to get an okay job without it, but it's not really an option now. I'm all bothered by thinking about how much I missed out on. I struggled so much academically and lost about a year of college thanks to COVID. I feel like the only time I had fun was my freshman year. The rest was grinding. I watched everyone around me go to parties, join frats, and just do the typical college things when I didn't really have the time or energy to do so. I graduated without dating or doing anything with women. Without more than 3 or 4 friends, I feel like such a loser and like I squandered the best years of my life away by trying to be a good student. Now I'm working a real job, waiting until I start my job in the military, and it's been so depressing. The work isn't even hard, but somehow it's more exhausting. I'm a waiter and I hate it. I hate the job. I hate the bosses. I don't get along with the coworkers. It just feels so tiring. I no longer enjoy things I used to find fun. I no longer find joy in anything. I frequently find myself fighting back tears because of how sad I am about what the rest of my life feels like it's going to be. I've expressed these feelings to my actual dad, and he essentially said, "That's life, get over it." I don't know how to cope with this or to suppress this sadness. I really need some advice. We're just going to jump into the advice, and I can only imagine the amount of people who can relate to this. Graduating college is such a bittersweet moment. You're excited that you're graduating, but you're also sad about all the stuff you missed out, you didn't participate in, or things like that, yada yada. But to be honest, your dad is right. Your dad is right. It sounds crappy, but that is life. However, you're 22. You're 22. And I can guarantee you your 20s, regardless of what society puts out here, are not your best years. Your 20s are your years of exploration, which is why I always tell you guys to explore. In your 20s, you should explore. You should try to do stuff you like and try stuff you don't like. Your 20s are not your best years. Your best years in life are the years you're going to live after you've discovered yourself, after you find your purpose, after you find your passion, after you just do that thing that brings you joy. Those are your best years. You have not attained that yet. And I know how obsessed our society is with youth. I understand how many depressing stories and sad stories there are about aging and growing up, and you only hear old people talk about how they miss doing this and miss doing that when they were young and strong, but they can't really see the wisdom. They can't really see what being in the old age brings. I know how obsessed society is with youth, and I know how we don't really have good stories, but we only have sad stories of getting older, getting depressed, going through a midlife crisis, wishing you were back in your teens, wishing you were back in your 20s. And it seems like every day older people are just wishing to be younger and younger and younger. We don't really have good examples. So I don't blame you too much for feeling like your 20s is your peak, but your 20s is not your peak, okay? It's not an actual age for peakness. Everyone is different. You peak once you've found your purpose. You peak once you found your passion. You peak when you found what you're looking for. You peak once you've discovered who you are, what you want to be, what is your purpose in the world. How can you aid this life? How can you aid the world? What can you make right? Or what can you do that is unique to you? That is when you peak. And that's not in your 20s. Because in your 20s, you still don't know a lot about yourself. In your 20s, your prefrontal cortex has not finished developing. In your 20s, you're still wondering about stuff, about the world. You don't know that much. So how can you peak when literally your brain has not finished developing? It does not make sense. Honestly, don't listen to those people. Those same old people who are wishing they were back in their 20s, wishing they were back in their teens, wishing they were this, wishing they were that. Even when they were in those age brackets, they were still sad, they were still depressed, they were still miserable. Please don't fall in the cycle. This is actually one of the purpose of this channel and of this podcast, to make young people or just people of any age to not fall into this depressive mood of thinking, now that I'm 30, my life is over. Or now that I'm 20, my life is over. Now that I'm 30, my life is over. Now that I'm 40, my life is over. It's like, unless you find yourself, unless you find your passion, unless you find your purpose, you're not going to peak. You never peaked. People were just around you and you internalize that false sense of acceptance as peaking, but that's not you peaking. You do not peak until you find your purpose. You don't peak until you find your passion. You don't peak until you know what you're meant to do in the world. And it's so unfortunate, but a lot of people in our society do not ever reach their peak. That's why they always think life was better when they were younger. Life was better when they didn't have responsibility. That was better. I mean, it had its pros and cons. I'm not going to knock it down. Obviously, you have less responsibility as a child, so you're able to be more free and not have to worry about taxes and paying rent and doing all that. It definitely has its pros, but it also has its cons. You have to have a curfew. You need to listen to every single thing your parents are saying. Sometimes they're flat out of pocket, but you got to listen to them because they're the authority figure. You got to do this, you got to do that. Whereas an adult, you have more quote unquote freedom, but now you have to pay bills. You have to do this, you have to do that. Life has its pros and cons. Life changes all the time. Life is dual. And unless we get out of this naive thinking of, I just want my life to be like this, or I just want my life to be like that, then we won't really get to the point where we appreciate life for everything it has to offer. They're both good and bad in the world. So what the heck makes you think life is not going to have some challenges and some good times? It is. It just is. It's unfortunate, but it is. But back to your question. You have not yet peaked, because it seems like you're still looking for yourself. You finished your degree in computer science. This is definitely, I'm definitely assuming right now, but it definitely seems you're more mentally stimulated than physically stimulated. I hope it doesn't sound weird, but anyways, the edit for this is going to be interesting. I hope you understand what I mean, and I'm not being like a total creep right now, but it seems like you enjoy mental stimulation more, and you are in the service industry, which is more of a physical based industry. Of course, you're not going to like it. If you are more prone to the mind, if you're more prone to mental exercises, to using your brain, using all that, I'm not saying you're not if you're physical, but there are some people who just have an affinity for the mental. Others have an affinity for the spiritual, and others are more physical. It just is what it is. We're built differently. It's not that one is good, the other one is bad. We just have an affinity for some stuff. If you are more mentally stimulated, you'll have more. If you are more mentally stimulated and you have a greater affinity for mental stimulation, you should probably be in a career that uses where you have to use your mind. And at this point, it can just be any career, because you're starting out, you're 22, you're probably going to start as an entry level. So try to get in a career that stimulates your mind if you're a mental type of person. If you're more of a physical type of person, obviously try to go into a career that caters to that or that incorporates that. This is just the basics of stuff. A lot of people, unfortunately, a lot of people straight out of college are not gonna get to work in their major. It's unfortunate, but it just is what it is. So this is when you have to look at your major. Was your major more of a mental stimulation, or more of a physical stimulation, or more of a creative and spiritual sense? Which one is it? And try to go in a career that kind of caters to that. I think that's gonna help at least you not dread going to work. It may not be directly in your major, but if it does encompass a part of something you like if it's challenging to your brain, you may not like it, but Your brain is working, so you are going to get some type of fulfillment from there. So that is the only advice I can give to any college graduate who is just straight out of school. They can't find a job in their major. Just break it down to the bare bones. Go back to the foundation. What was the foundation of your major? Was your major more of a physical type major? I don't even know what that would be. I'm sorry, I don't know. It's like academia is pretty mental, so it's like I can't even think of an example of a physical type major except for physical therapy. It's like, but that's still mental. But I hope you understand what I'm saying. Is your major more of a physical type base? Is it more mental type base? Or is it more creative and in the spiritual sense? Find out what it is. Try to get a career in those big brackets that may not necessarily pertain to your major, since you can't get a job in your major at this point, but you still want a sense of connection to your job. You don't want to completely disconnect it from your job like this man. He was in computer science. That is a heavy mind brain type of stimulation, and now he's in the service industry. This is more physical and hospitality. I would say maybe kind of spiritual, but not that much. It's more so physical and like you being nice. So there's a disconnect, there's a disarray. And it is unfortunate that you can't find a job in your major at this point. But unfortunately, my only advice for now would be try to tackle it like that. And hopefully just keep applying to stuff in your major, keep applying to stuff in your field, and you can get it. But yeah, what I really want to hop on is we need to stop this nonsense of us peaking in our 20s. Your brain does not finish developing until you're 25. Come on, guys. You're not peaking in your 20s. You peak, again, I'm going to say this for the third and last time. You peak when you found your passion, when you found your purpose, when you found what you're good at, when you found your place in this world. That is when you peak, and that is at any age. There's no actual age for that. That is at any age, anytime. You can peak at 10 or you can peak in your 80s. Once you find your purpose, when you find your passion, when you find you know what you're good at, once you know yourself, that's when you peak. That's when the peak is at, which is the purpose of this channel, to help you guys reach your peak. So anyways, that is it for this episode. Please let us know what you thought of our new background and the bad audio right now. But please let us know what you thought. And if you like this video, make sure you give us a like, subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to leave your comments. We love reading your comments. And again, you can send your stories at our Gmail account, which is kitchentableadvice@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening to us rant a little bit, and we'll see you next week. Bye.